Well, the season is over, and although it was an exciting season, a disappointing one for me. But hey, it happens. It happens when you're a young squad. But let's go over some season awards first, though. Before we get into that, what's your kind of overview breakdown of the season? Like, what are some key things you want to highlight before we get into the awards?
Well, I think the biggest thing is, I mean, we have to see, can these so-called lower teams, can they continue this? They had we've seen these sides, right? I mean, they even won the league, but they got relegated this season. So I think the big thing is, I guess this is more looking ahead to next season, but can these teams that stepped up really, Brightons, the Villas, the Brentfords, the Fulhams, can they keep this up? Because if you take your foot off the pedal and you stand still in the Premier League, you're actually going backwards. You're not standing still, you're going backwards.
Yeah, and to that point, you mentioned the so-called lower teams. One of the teams that struggled this season, but obviously miraculously got out of the relegation, Everton. Do people realize that they are the second longest team, or like longest serving team in the Premier League? However, if that really is the correct terminology to use
I
for
know I
that.
know why you brought this up because you want to see the first Arsenal, but either way, yeah, Everton, yeah, I mean, it's the second season in a row. I think last season they got out like on the penultimate day of the season, I think. And I remember them beating Crystal Palace and all the fans ran onto the field. Had they gotten relegated, it would have been a disaster because I think their new stadium's coming up. I think next season or in a year or two. I mean, that's a lot of money. So Everton are gonna have to step up big time next season.
And do you think they can?
That's the reason why I kind of wanted them to get relegated under Sean Dyche. They probably could. It's not like they're short of funds. They've just spent it wrongly.
Right, right, and that's been a big talk. That's honestly kind of one of the reasons why I wanted them to stay in the Premier League, just in case they could buy some dead wood from us for on the high as they did with Iwobi, we've seen in the past. But moving into the awards themselves, let's start with the manager. Who was your manager of the season?
I mean, I probably would have given it to Arteta had it not been for the last 10 games, but I think it just has to go to Eddie Howe.
Eddie Howe. Okay, I like that selection. Still, Newcastle with you know a surprise finish to the season in Champions League football. Would you believe it? It's gonna be weird seeing them in there, but they deserve it. What do you make of what he's done with the side? What the players that were brought in, how he's able to let them gel, the style of football they were able to play. How are they able to maintain it for so long throughout the season?
Well, to me, I think the biggest thing is the energy that he was able to instill into his side, and I think he bought the players. I mean, the players bought into it. I say buy because they're freaking loaded with money. Ironic, but yeah, players that fully bought into it, and I mean, I think Arsenal winning the league would have been a greater achievement. Obviously, I mean, coming in top four doesn't compare to winning the league, but I mean, maybe like maybe some very optimistic Arsenal fans had you guys winning the league, right? Obviously, I don't think any optimistic, even the most optimistic of those Newcastle fans, had them in the top four this season.
So looking now back on Eddie Howe himself as a manager, do you think for his career, or let me ask you like this: if you were Eddie Howe, would you want to stay at Newcastle, or would you want a new challenge at a historically bigger team?
I mean, he's got to stay. He has great backing from the owners. I mean, he's proven it. He's been adored by. I mean, the only place he would possibly be going to is Tottenham. But I mean, would you even say Tottenham are a better place than Newcastle right now? And perhaps in the future, even?
Yeah,
Probably
for
not.
real.
Yeah.
Probably not, honestly. And on top of that, we've seen many great managers, or at least big name managers, I should say, go to Tottenham and have failed. So,
Yeah.
I mean, you're getting all these resources at Newcastle. Why go to a team like Tottenham where you're not getting any resources?
Yeah.
I don't see that as an option. Can Eddie Howe carry it into next season with Newcastle? This momentum.
No. I mean, viewers, you guys can check out our short. We'll probably have 5 teams qualifying for the Champions League from the Premier League next season. That is depending on if English teams do well in the European leagues. But we don't think Newcastle are coming in top 5 next season.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I just don't see them picking up back the same momentum. I still think they need some fresh players coming in to kind of adapt to the challenges that are going to arise next season. So that's where I see them struggling. A lot of the times you see these teams perform for one season and then they fall off the season after. So
Well, plus they don't have the luxury of playing 1 game a week anymore. They have
that's right.
they'll have at least 6 midweek games before Christmas, depending on if they make it further, whether it be the Europa League, Champions League. The schedule will just pile up towards the end of the season. So, but anyway, I'm assuming your pick for the manager of the season is the Lego man himself.
The Lego man. This man call him
No,
the Lego man.
his hair, and it's just very boxy. I mean, he's a handsome,
Boxy.
he's a good
The
looking
man,
guy.
it's
He's a
because the man
good.
boxy up in the league, bro. That's why. That's why I call him boxy.
What do you mean,
Nah,
bro?
bro. Of course. Nah, I mean as in in the table, but all right, yeah, of course. That's going to be my manager of the season. My manager, literally, but my manager of the season also. I mean, if we're looking on just the Premier League, what a season he's had. Yes, the last 10 games you mentioned, I know, but he's been brilliant. He's been absolutely brilliant the whole season. Not just what he's produced on the field. I think he's had big decisions to make. He's made them. He obviously had the whole transfer window in the winter. He was able to adapt to circumstances that weren't beneficial for him, like the whole Mudryk situation, the whole Caicedo situation, and he was able to adapt both times with 2 great signings. Unfortunately, it came short, but I just think with all of that into consideration, and also the most important side of it was his ability to reconnect the fans with the football club. That I think is the reason why he's my manager of the season.
You know, you didn't need to say all this. We knew you were gonna pick him anyway. So
Yeah, but I mean, come on, like you don't. I
yeah,
mean,
no,
you said it
yeah,
whole.
no, I hear you 100%. That's the biggest thing. You have something to believe in now.
Yeah, honestly, I mean that to me is the key factor.
I think the
But
next category, I mean, there's no debate, probably player of the season. This guy's won it. I mean, in already, it's got to be Holland, right?
yeah, I mean those goals don't lie. I mean that's another record in the books right there. But we've been seeing a lot of talk though recently. Would you say that Kane's 30 goal season was more impressive than Haaland's 36 goals?
To me, yes. And I think if you put Harry Kane in City's side, I think he touches 40, 50 goals, really.
Why was it more impressive to you?
Because Harry Kane can do a bit of everything. I think Holland's game has evolved somewhat to a bit more all round, but he's still not up there, you know. And I think part of the reason why City struggled in the beginning and they are flourishing now is they had to, like you said, they had to adjust and change to a player like Holland coming in. And I think had Harry Kane came in, you know, he would have fit in perfectly. There was no change needed from no adjustments or anything. Um, and Harry Kane's just a better overall striker to me than Holland at this point in their careers.
Interesting. You let us know who you think, Haaland or Kane, whose season was more impressive. I'm picking Haaland though for player of the season as well.
Yeah,
I think the numbers just don't lie there. Like you just have to go with the numbers. You can say if Kane was, if Kane wasn't, whatever, whatever. The fact of the matter is, though that was the goal breakdown, and I think that's why Haaland deserves it. Young player of the season.
now this is something I have a problem with. young player of the season, and these guys are picking Odegaard, who moved to Real Madrid at 15. You know, he's been playing professional since he was 15. And Saka and you know, all these they're not young. Okay, they're young by definition, I guess.
That's how
But
you have to look on them, though. That's just even more impressive. They shouldn't be out of the running for young player of the year just because they've been playing for longer than another person.
I just think that it needs to be redefined. I mean,
To what though?
you know, we saw Sterling winning this for 3 years in a row, I think, like when back when he was at City. And he was also nominated for player of the season. And he's already won it once and he won it again and then again. There's just it just defeats the purpose of this title. I think it's got to go to someone who's breaking through, you know, almost like I mean, in America they have a Rookie of the Year award, right? Rookie. I think that's what it should be, and I'm not discrediting that. You know, they're young and they shouldn't be. I'm not saying that, but it's just there's just no point in labeling them as young player of the award because those two guys could have easily been player of the season. I mean, close to it at least.
So you want to call it breakthrough player of the year, maybe?
Yeah, or just rookie of the season, perhaps. And
Rookie still to me kind of sounds like young player though. But
rookie,
anyway, when you look at breakthrough
yeah,
player though,
breakthrough, yeah.
if we say breakthrough player, because I get your point, you want somebody who's in it for the first year. But if that's the case, what about a player who's broken through late, a late bloomer?
I mean, do you want to create a new award for that as well? I mean,
That's what I'm saying though. Do they get
but
considered now, or do you have to be young and breaking through?
I think you've got to be young. You can't have a 27-year-old coming into the Premier League for the first time and tearing up. Like you're not a rookie or you're not a breakthrough. Like I mean, you look at the players like let's say Salah when he first came in, right? He broke through at Liverpool, but he wasn't young, you know. So I just think not just young, but you've also had to have, you know, very little experience in the league or any professional experience, I think. But I mean, either way, my pick is going to be I think this guy's really broken through this season, but he's also played quite a few games. So maybe I'm contradicting myself. Never mind. I don't want to contradict myself. I'll pick Evan Ferguson, the striker for Brighton.
Okay. So if we're so let's say it like so is Evan Ferguson based on your definition though, as in a
Yeah,
breakthrough and young? Okay.
yeah.
All right. I
The
think that's a good
player,
shout.
yeah, the player that I was gonna pick before was Jacob Ramsey. But I think he's played like 3 seasons now for Villa. He broke through. That's the definition, right? But he's played already a lot of games, so I'll probably give it to Evan Ferguson.
And now in what the definition actually is, who are you picking?
To me, I'm 26, so 26 is still young. So I'm picking Marcus Rashford.
No, bro. Come on, bro. Bro, come on. You just don't want to say it. All right, look, I'll say it for you. I say Bukayo Saka.
Fine, with 4 years of professional experience. Okay.
I think all right, I think Odegaard had a better season, but I know that you prefer Saka. I know that you find Saka a more dangerous player than Odegaard. Is that correct?
I do, yes. But if they were the same price, I'm taking Odegaard because any central figure, so we call the spine, right? Striker, midfielder, center back, keeper. It's just more important and more valuable than a winger.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Moving on to signing of the season.
This is a tough one because I do want to pick players who've actually played in more than 30 games. Like Ruben Diaz didn't even play 30 games. I'm not picking him in my team of the season or anything like that. Uh, Same reason I probably won't be picking Saliba because he missed the whole run-in for Arsenal. But my United bias is telling me it's got to be Casemiro or Lisandro Martinez, any of those two.
Ah, boy.
And I mean,
Boy.
it is what it is. I mean, people who work in the football industry, we make a living by contradicting ourselves. Being hypocritical. So uh, just let me have this one.
I mean, I'll get. I mean, I respect the opinion, but I don't know how you can look at Casemiro and say that because of the amount of times that this guy hasn't even been available for you guys, thanks to just red cards, just the discipline alone. I mean, he's been an influential part of the season, crucial goals. I'm not gonna deny that. I think he's had a great impact, but that discipline alone should raise red flags, in my opinion.
Very unfair. I mean, you know, Jack Grealish, I think it was against Partey, right? He held his sleeve and like I mean, it was the same thing as what Casemiro did, and he didn't get sent off. That's why I said I'm contradicting myself because he hasn't played not even 30 games. He played 28 games. But I think his impact overall was there to be seen. Man United become the second highest team in terms of the points differential between last season and this season, behind only Newcastle. So
Still, I think I'm being a bit boring here, but the signing of the season has to be Erling Haaland. It really
no,
does.
no, you can't pick. I mean, I would, okay, obviously, I would pick Holland too, but I mean, no,
It's good. That's why I say it's gonna be boring, but he just has to be all right. If we're gonna say second, then because he is, he just is, he really is, he really is.
he is, yes, he is, yes, yes.
Boy, that's tough. I still think it's tough. I feel like I'd be biased if I was to go ahead and pick an Arsenal player, to be honest. But
I
I
mean,
truly,
would Akanji be a good shout? I mean, nobody expected anything from him. The guy was signed close to the deadline for what, 15 million pounds?
who you said?
Akanji for City.
Oh, Akanji. Yeah, he could be. I mean, to me, that could go more under surprise signing of the season. I wouldn't say he's the best signing, if that makes sense. But yeah, because I never expected that sort of impact from him. It's interesting to see
Right.
how Guardiola just, pick certain players because he's just adapting his system and stuff. But nonetheless, surprise signing of the season, that could be him. I'd feel biased picking an Arsenal player though, but I love the Trossard signing. I just think the circumstances, the price we paid for him, and the contribution. I mean, what he had 12 assists the whole season. The man was racking up the assists, bro. I think that goes a long way.
It did until April. That's I know
It did,
it's
yeah.
not all down to him, but yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
not down to him.
yeah, great impact as well. I mean, he probably would have gotten the shout, even though he was a winter signing, had Arsenal gone on to win the league, but they didn't. So I mean, I was expecting you to say someone like Zinchenko. He came in and almost revolutionized the side.
He crossed my mind, but Zinchenko had too many costly moments in the season, and my other choice was gonna be Jesus, but he was just injured for too long, in my opinion.
But wouldn't you also say yes? I mean, he's obviously a liability defensively, but in other areas that he contributes that allow you to dominate the game. I mean, wouldn't you take that trade off?
Yeah, no, absolutely. But again, it comes back to signing of the season. Like you gotta be like, you gotta have almost like no flaws at this point. I think if you had said that, if you had asked me that about Zinchenko and those moments against Liverpool and those crucial moments didn't happen, I probably would have just straight up said, yeah, I definitely would take the trade off because we can see his weaknesses without necessarily being costly, but these times they were just very costly, and I think that was the whole issue for me. That's why I wouldn't call him signing of the season,
Yeah, that Liverpool game, I still remember his face. He was so distraught. A
bro.
face of a man who was just let down the whole, I don't even know, the whole world, it seemed
Yeah,
like.
bro. He can
But
come back though. He can come back. That's a learning moment for him. He was a leader the whole season. He had a great season nonetheless. And I think that's just the start of his Arsenal reign, honestly.
I mean, I saw that. I mean, to be honest, he did that against Southampton too, right? But to me, I mean, I've never been involved in professional football or any team sport. But if a guy was that shaky and that big of a liability defensively, comes up and tries to be a leader, I don't know how much of that is sticking to me. Like, do you know what I'm saying?
Yes and no, because I think that the role he's asked to play is just tactically asking for mistakes to happen. Kind of similarly to like when we used to talk about City and Cancelo was being put under a lot of pressure and he had mistakes happen to him. It was because the system was almost it's too risky for that. And then when it messes up, he's the one who looks bad. But it's not like he's being irresponsible, or it's not like he's just lapsing concentration. It's mostly just down to the system. So which is why I wouldn't necessarily target Zinchenko and his leadership skills where that's concerned. I'd more just look on the system and the tactical side of the whole team.
Well, on that note, we can move on to the biggest surprise. We'll do it in two, I guess, categories: a positive surprise and a negative surprise. Positive surprise, you cannot pick Arsenal because you already picked Arteta as your manager. So just something else, you know.
Positive surprise. I know we already picked Newcastle to an extent, but they would be my positive surprise of the season. Another honorable mention, Aston Villa. I think they had a great turnaround when Unai Emery came in. And half Brighton, because I felt like Brighton were good for for even the last few seasons. It's not like they just come out of nowhere. So but the fact that they were able to swap managers and still maintain that form and consistency, they still get an honorable mention for me. Looking at negative surprises, there's two that stand out for me. One of them being Leicester, relegated. I didn't expect that with all the quality they had. And another one, Chelsea. Boy, they were just they were terrible. Bottom half. That's embarrassing.
Yeah. The thing with Chelsea is though, I mean, they're defensively very naive, very shaky. But I think there's a team in there. There's talent there, obviously. And a lot of the times it was down to their poor finishing. And at this point, I don't know if a single striker will solve it. And I don't know where they even get that striker from, because Harry Kane is not going to Chelsea. But
Why you say that? Well, Pochettino has now come in. Do you think maybe that Pochettino could influence Kane? They had a good relationship at Tottenham, maybe.
I mean, I just don't see a guy like Harry Kane pushing a move to Chelsea. It had Pochettino gone to, I mean, even to United, it's a stretch, right? They're not going to want to sell him to a Premier League rival. I say rival, we're not really. They're not even, they're in eighth. But yeah, I just cannot see him going to Chelsea at all.
No, but I think it would be a good fit, and I think it would be even like it would be almost revolutionary to Chelsea's whole system. It could be one of those things that could drive them up to what we saw a few seasons ago, where they were 10th and ended up winning it the next season. Hope is not one of those, but they now have a manager that can make it. Well, that can make it happen. I'm not saying they will, but they also have the squad too, as you mentioned. So, do you think that Chelsea can turn this surprise around next season?
Can't go any lower. So I think they will, yeah. I'm scared for them. I'm scared. I
As in, you're
hope.
scared for them as a Man U
No, no,
fan,
no.
or
Yeah, I'm scared of them as a fan of a rival team.
okay, yeah, I would also agree. I'm a bit nervous about their comeback next season. I feel they're gonna come back with some vengeance. No lie.
That about does it for the awards.
No, wait, hold on. No, you have to say your surprises.
I mean, you've pretty much covered it.
You
Leicester.
agree? And then what about your favorite game now? What was your favorite game all season?
There's so many. There's
Was it
so
Liverpool
many.
Man U, the 7 love?
The reverse fixture, yes, not the 7 love. I don't know what you're talking about with the 7 love. Um,
We don't need to pull
uh,
up the highlights again.
no, I mean, hey, where are Liverpool? They're stuck in Europa League, so good for them. They can have the 7-0. But yeah, I mean, the reverse fixture, 2-1 Liverpool. Um, I just remember being in that moment, and I just let out a big scream when we scored the first goal because it was so frustrating, right? And we just hadn't beaten Liverpool for 5, 6 years at the time, I think. It was just such a big relief, such a big moment in the season too. And just one more, I guess, Arsenal, 3-1 at home. That was a nice one.
Yeah. My favorite personally from the Arsenal perspective was against Bournemouth. I
Bournemouth.
mean,
Yeah, I knew
that
it.
was brilliant. That was just absolutely brilliant. But that is obviously my bias favorite game, of course.
No, I think that was a great game. Yeah, that was a great game. But yeah, as I said, let's move on to the team of the seasons. For me personally, I will not be picking players who've played less than 30 games. So I'm not putting Ruben Diaz. I'm not putting, I mean, Jesus wasn't in it, but I'm not putting those guys in there. I'm gonna go for a 4-4-2, just because I think you guys know what two strikers I'm gonna be picking. In goal, I'm gonna go for Allison. Without Allison, I think Liverpool finish seventh, eighth.
Yeah, I think that's a good show. Alisson has always been consistent the whole season. Crucial for Liverpool. All-round keeper, shot stopper, reflexes. He's there, leader, and he gives that reliable feel at the back. And not to mention his kicking. How many assists did he get this season, honestly?
Yeah. The only thing is he hasn't scored this season, so that brings his that brings his stock down a little bit. But what formation have you opted for at your goalkeeper?
Well, I mean, I guess we have to go with the same because, as you said, we need the two strikers in there. To be honest, the two strikers. I think there's no
Yeah.
choice where that's concerned. But yeah, keeper. Just to switch it up on you, being as you pick Allison, I'ma have to go with Nick Pope. I know he had a shaky end. There were sometimes he had some shaky moments, but I think overall him and that whole Newcastle backline were very solid the whole season.
Yeah, that they were, except for the last few weeks. Speaking of Newcastle, I think my right back's got to be Kieran Trippier.
Yep, and I'd have to second that opinion. He's been great all season, defensively and attacking.
Yeah. And moving on to the center halves, I know a lot of people have put Ruben Diaz, Salibas, but I just cannot put them in there. I mean I would, I guess their peaks were probably the best. I just cannot pick players who played less than 30 games. That the same reason why I won't be putting Casemiro in the side or Lisandro Martinez. I'll go for, I mean, this is not a real team that we're building anyway. Um, I'll put Gabriel in there. Gabriel rocking the side for Arsenal. I know they conceded a fair few goals, but I mean he's grown on me. He has certainly grown on me. So I'll put him as one of the center halves of the season.
No, he's been brilliant all season, and that was an option for me too. But I'm gonna disagree with you, and I'm gonna pick Saliba anyway. Just just because of his impact in the team has just been so good for Arsenal, and you could see it when he was out the team when he came out injured, and this is kind of a weird way to put it, but that the fact that he got injured made me rate him more because we could see the side with him and the side without him. And it's just a clear difference when Saliba is in the side. And my other centre back who I'm picking.
Well, now you can't say nothing about my Casemiro and Lisandro Martinez pick then. And plus,
Oh no, I was gonna pick Lisandro Martinez actually as my other pick.
okay, well,
That was gonna be my other pick.
just speaking on Saliba missing, I mean, like you said, it's shown how important he is as well. And I think that's also shown or given him that upper edge in the contract negotiations, right? I mean, I know you've got to be slightly, if not a lot,
I'm
nervous
very nervous. Yeah,
at
I'm
this
very
point.
nervous about that. Yeah.
1 year left on his contract. PSG, his hometown country, hometown club, calling. There's gonna be no, I mean, he'll have no shortage of suitors this summer.
No, absolutely not. It's nervy. It's nervy, and he had a loan spell in Marseille. He enjoyed it. I don't think that he has any problems with Arsenal though. He doesn't not like it. It seems, at least so far. So, and he was clearly good into like clearly well integrated into the Arsenal squad. So, I don't see much problems with us signing over, but the nerves are always gonna stick around until the deal is actually signed. So yeah. But swinging it back to the other choice, I was saying Lisandro Martinez, I think he was honestly a choice for me for signing of the season because, as we know, he was linked with us for a while. I admired him, and I saw him go to Man United, and everybody said he's too short. They don't know if he can manage the Prem. I think even we were saying that. So he's
Yeah.
coming and he's proved us and everybody else wrong. What a signing he has been, and what a player he has been for Man United this season.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. I will not pick him. Even though I do like him as well. Because he was injured for the later half of the season. I'll probably go with Fabian Schär. This guy was supposed to be shipped out. I mean, he wasn't even good enough for a relegation side when Newcastle were down there, and for him to turn this around. And I know he's had some good partners around him, but yeah, I've got to go with him, Fabian Schär.
Before we move on to the left back, did you want to, I mean, I want to ask you about the Brighton squad. Did you have any centre backs from Brighton you wanted to look at? Or no, dead?
No, I,
Dead?
I don't think they're that good. I think they're all down to the system.
I wanted to honorably mention Lewis Dunk. I like Lewis Dunk personally. But all right, cool. We'll
I mean,
move
yeah,
on
I
from
mean,
there.
I wouldn't be. It's not a bad shout. I just don't rate them that much. That's it.
Fair enough. Left back.
I think this one. I mean, there's a debate because he's played at center half as well, but it's got to be Luke Shaw.
Luke Shaw. Nadag. I'm going for Zinchenko.
I mean, of
I'm
course,
going for
I won't be
Zinchenko,
picking
bro.
him because, as you know, he didn't play um the full games. But I mean, I think Luke Shaw is the best left back in the league at this point.
You guys let us know who you think, Zinchenko or Luke Shaw. Who had the better season?
Eh, no,
Fair enough.
I mean I mean, what do you think overall? I do think I'm not just saying this because he plays for us. I just overall think Luke Shaw's a better player.
And same for me. I'm not just saying it. I actually think Zinchenko. They're obviously different. Luke Shaw is probably more versatile, but I think Zinchenko is just a more quality player at what he does. He's a more specialized player. That's for sure. He's a unique, specialized player. And I think he does that better than Luke Shaw being versatile. But
Okay.
you guys let us know. You let us know. Where you want to start? Central mid?
We'll just go from right to left. Right mid, I think there's no debate. I could have put Salah, but seeing as they came fifth, I would probably just go for Saka.
Yeah, I agree. Saka. Saka is the guy.
Mhm. And for center mids, I mean, I know again it's not a real team, but I've got to pick one attacking and one defensive. In that sense, I just got to go for Rodri and De Bruyne.
Yeah, Rodri, I think, is a definite. I don't think anyone's gonna disagree with that one. I'm torn between Odegaard and De Bruyne, but I think not my bias, but I think the standards I have for De Bruyne are a bit higher, which is why I'm torn between them. But if we're putting them at a level playing field, I think it has to be De Bruyne. He's just got
Yeah.
the numbers. he was the guy. They won it. Has to be De Bruyne.
Yeah, I mean, they should both be in. We just don't have space because the two strikers are looking crazy.
Yeah, exactly. And on the left side,
I think this is probably the last spot that we'll have a debate or slash discrepancy on. I'm going for Rashford.
that's tough. That's tough. I mean, yeah, it could be. It's obviously it's between Rashford and boy Martinelli. If I'm being biased again, but the goals, bro, the goals were just there. They were there. Rashford too, he had a lot of goals, but then it's about the reliability, the consistency. Rashford, I think, did very well to lead his squad. I think that's where you can give Rashford the tip over Martinelli. But for me, Martinelli, it was about the versatility and the work rate on the defensive end too. The passion, you could say, the drive, the fact that Arsenal were so high the whole season, a lot of it was down to him. So it's a toss-up. Very close. That's very close. Who had the better season, Martinelli or Rashford? You let us know.
You've got to pick one, though. You've got to pick one.
You cannot. Martinelli. I pick Martinelli already.
All right.
I have to stick with the Arsenal man, bro. I have to stick with the Arsenal man. But is there anybody else that you don't want to mention as far as potential for that? I like Mitoma. I thought Mitoma had a great season too on the left side.
Yeah. He's a good shout too. I just think for him, to me, I think his pattern is a bit. I'm just saying this because I know I've watched him and I've read reports on him from his time in the Japanese league. When his dribble patterns get found out, he does tend to struggle and he can ghost in games. I'll be interested to see if defenders adjust to him and kind of catch up with that pattern. First season, we see a lot of players who have a dip in the next season, right? Because players adjust to their style, and they get found out, and that's what happened for Mitoma in Japan. So we'll see if he can revert that in the upcoming Premier League season. But yeah, he's a good shout too.
And finally, the two strikers. We don't even need to go in depth with it. You know it already.
Weghorst and Martial.
Ah, boy.
Yeah.
Anyways, before everybody actually thinks that's your answer.
Yeah, Haaland and Kane. To imagine, we could have had, and we could be looking at Haaland and Kane if United signed Haaland. Well, I guess now we wouldn't have went for Harry Kane.
Exactly. That's all. Ifs and buts and whatever. That's no. But imagine they were on the same team. Oh, that would be crazy.
Yeah. Whoever, I mean, if that does happen, they've both got to play. Forget about your midfield. Forget about your wingers. You've got to play them both. They can do everything. Yeah,
that'll be a lot of goals. Oh, but thank goodness that probably won't happen anytime soon.
Maybe it could at Real Madrid. Maybe. But yeah, not in the Premier League, no. That's all we have time for today. Guys, thanks for tuning in as always. We hope you enjoyed your time with us. Remember to subscribe, to leave comments, and share with your friends. Follow us on social media at FOTB Pod. Don't forget to leave a review, rating, and most importantly, don't forget to turn on those notifications. Join us again next time as we discuss the highly anticipated upcoming Premier League action. Thanks again as always. See you then.